Thank you very much, everyone. It's a great honour to be here today. Can we get high flexion for medially stabilised knee, specifically the MRK knee? I'm here with a couple of other colleagues. We have come from OrthoTV, which I'm sure many of you know about. A lot of you will have been there, and some may have trained. And OrthoTV has a long history with the evolved knees from the Freeman philosophy through to the MRK you see on the right-hand side of the slide today. And the MRK has become the most commonly used knee in OrthoTV, about 700 joints a day, just over 50% of our primary joint knees per year. It's been around for over 20 years, and we've used it for around 15. And so we feel we've got quite a lot of experience with it. But back to the question. It was a question I didn't really understand because, of course, I use the MRK, and I know I get high flexion. But I understand where it's coming from. Just to make sure we know what we're talking about with high flexion, as Freeman said many years ago, anything beyond 110/20 becomes high flexion. And there's two parts, there's active and passive. But what do we go for? Do we go for stability or range of motion? That's really the core of this question. And of course, like most things in my life, there might be a compromise to be had. But in this situation, I'll put it to you that maybe that's just planning to fail. Over the years, we have traditional knee designs trying to achieve the same goals, this nirvana, and they've achieved it via different ways that you all know. But they all come with a degree of compromise, relative at least. They may be relatively unstable, they may incur high contact stresses, difficulty with the patella, and of course, if you cut a box, you're losing more bone. Are we asking too much? No, because we've got our normal knee, that has good range of motion, normal range of motion, and high stability. So perhaps we've oversimplified things in our traditional knee designs in the past, because the normal knee is asymmetric in all compartments. All three compartments are different, and they work together. It's just worth noting on this slide we've got here that the picture on the left shows no patella, because the patella in high flexion is on the lateral side of the knee. So what do we need to achieve high flexion? Well, we don't want the condyles moving forward in the tibia because that will just make things impinge in high flexion posteriorly. And you can see in these images again of the natural knee how that happens with permitted and required rollback of the lateral condyle in deep flexion. The MRK, medial ball and socket knee, achieves that. And you can see, again, the classic image from Professors Pinskerova and Freeman on the right-hand side of the slide showing rollback of the lateral femoral condyle, very little movement of the medial femoral condyle because of its ball and socket shape. Also note on the left-hand side, high contact areas. This was originally called the FS 1000 knee because of the 1000 square millimeters of contact area. This is a very important point, the movement of the patella, as we've already indicated. If a normal knee is asymmetric in the patellofemoral joint, the trochlear is asymmetric, the patella is asymmetric, and during flexion, it moves laterally. Look at your own knee in extension, then flex it, then patella moves laterally. Most knee designs don't allow this. Most knee designs force the patella medially or to the midline, and that's the wrong direction. It'll leave the lateral condyle uncovered and potentially unstable in that deep flexion coming downstairs position. And if you look at the MRK and what that does, this paper from J. shows that as you flex the knee, the patella tracks laterally just like the normal knee would do. I'm not going to go into patient factors, but we know they're important when we want to get high flexion. We're not going to get high flexion with Ronaldo, I don't think. But look at the fluoroscopic data. This has been referred to already today. And up at the high levels of flexion, 140 degrees, we can see the medial side remaining stable and not moving significantly more than a couple of millimeters, but the lateral side rolls back. If you compare MRK, we didn't do this study, if you compare MRK to another PS device, we can see that average flexion at 1 and 2 years is more by a measure of 15 degrees, and overall maximal flexion is also greater. This slide really talks about new users to MRK, so they're used to a next-gen high flex knee, and when they moved to MRK, they were a little surprised to find they still got the good flexion they were used to. So it doesn't seem to be related to surgeon experience or maybe have a steep learning curve. It seems to be implant related. But there's a problem, because if it's stable and we're flexing high, as Professor Barrett's already alluded to, does that just not mean it gets pushed out? Does that not mean it just becomes loose? Well, not according to the UK NJR, with MRK highlighted in red on the left-hand side, in amongst the lowest revision rates of knees on the market. I'm sure you'll say, well, it's not the lowest revised knee. Well, it depends on which area you look at it. So we've got to have some other way of seeing. And if you forgive me an analogy to Formula One, they're all good drivers, but who's the best? Well, we need to look at the Formula One positions over the modern F1 history. Here are the top 10 people, and you'll notice every single one of these Formula One pole position setters are world champion at least once. If you apply that to the knee, with the NJR reporting, more frequently we get to see the results. So in 30 instances, the MRK has been the least revised knee in 15. The latest NJR data is there, and recently it has an ODEP 10A star rating, 2.8% revision rate at 12 years. Patients like it. They prefer the feel, they get a better high-end function, they feel more satisfied compared to all others. They feel the operation has been of greater success compared to all others. They tend to forget the MRK more, and overall those problems that were related to, talked about earlier are also better. So hopefully that's answered the question, and that it is highly stabilized. You still get a high flexion. The outcomes are very good, and that's why we like the MRK so much at Oswestry. And I'll put it to you, just like Steve Jobs said, don't compromise. Thank you.